This is Pod Populi, podcast for the people.
I love that your last name is CCI everywhere. So when I'm like,
it is now.
Rachel Cici. Welcome to the Tragedy Academy, a show created to bridge societal divides in a judgment-free zone using candor and humor. My name is Jay. We are here today with Rachel, who's going to discuss CCI and a bunch of other creative endeavors that I love that she does, and see how this all creates the image that you see before you right now. Because in my mind, we're the sum of our experiences, nothing more, nothing less. And when they all come together, you get to see the character that's before you at any given time, but none of them are any less important than the other, right? So I want to welcome you, Rachel, and I can't wait to take a peek into your mind.
Thank you. I'm really happy that you invited me, and I'm really happy to be ready to be here.
I am proud of you.
Thanks.
Because what people don't know is what you're here to discuss.
Yeah.
And the depth and what you've gone through and how you've evolved since then. Right? I think we can get a sense for a lot of different steps that you're going to cover that are really going to give somebody a look into what is something that a lot of people may suffer from and not even know.
Yeah.
Because it has so many different masks. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you're here to discuss?
Yeah. So I'm Rachel, and I'm from Vancouver, Canada. And I'm here to kind of discuss something called cranial-cervical instability. It's a condition I've been living with aspects of for over 15 years. And I lived with this condition undiagnosed for 14 years. My cranial-cervical instability was the result of a motor vehicle accident where I was rear-ended and I was knocked unconscious. And I went through lots of medical things after, but this condition was my most severe pathology. It was something that did progress over time despite lots of good care, lifestyle, everything. But it was never flagged. And it's a really important condition for people to learn about because, you know, by the time I was diagnosed and eventually had to get treated with high-risk neurosurgery, I didn't have a lot of options. But there's other people out there who maybe are being diagnosed with persistent concussion syndrome. There's a lot of other conditions where they might have a more manageable form of this condition that with good care, they could preventatively protect some of their neurological structures and also improve their quality of life and function.
I love that you're taking this on, right? That's a lot to relieve yourself of right there. I could feel that you had so much you wanted to say and you didn't want to get it wrong. That's what people don't realize is that that's not for ego.
No,
it's for the passion behind it. So that you don't leave words behind and you don't leave things that people could learn from when it comes to getting diagnosed, you know, without them having the opportunity to realize or get the care that they need. So I want to tell you that I recognize that deep breath before and after is something that most people should have before they discuss their passion. Yeah. Right? I think that what happens when we open our mouth and we start to speak is that we live in an area of potential, right? Potential is very rare, except for the one being, and that's us, right? We have creativity and we have the ability to manipulate our surroundings at any given moment simply by speaking, right? And when you take that moment yourself to recognize what flame is inside of you now, at this current juncture in your life, because remember, your layers of experiences over time. So you can only be one at any given moment, but they are the sum of the others. So they make you special, right? They don't give you issues, right? But they teach you how you can live after, right? And how you can give other people a new baseline if they're in that situation, because you'll never have the past. And you don't grow until you realize in a medical condition that you may have a new normal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good point, because I also feel like something that was really challenging for me is I think that when you're living with complex chronic health, people kind of want to know, what's your milestone? And I think sometimes success is management. For me, success for a long time was limiting sliding backwards. And it was really difficult for me because until I got that diagnosis, I didn't understand like why it was so severe for me, why I was struggling so much, why, despite good strategies, good care, doing all of the right things, I felt like, I'm underperforming almost in a sense. Yet at the same time, I was like the marathon athlete of what I was doing. Like the diagnosis and the severity of the diagnosis, and a little bit about, for me, CCI. So I've got damage through my cervical spine, some stenosis, but the most severe was I'm a C1-2 junction, and your C1 junction is essentially what holds your head on. And your C2 junction is a very complex place. It is a junction point where all of your main blood supply, all your main nerves, where you have the most movement in your neck and whatnot. And so for me, that damage there made a big difference with
the tunnel to the mind from your whole biological self. Everything comes together there and sits right on top of it. And that juncture could not be any more important. There's a reason why people go for it first when they're maniacs. They strangle you, right? That's the first thing they grab.
Yeah.
Okay. They want that very delicate part of the human body, right? And to have yours exposed has got to feel mentally draining. And also, I would be mad. I would be mad that I had to live in a manner that was not allowing me to reach what I believed my full potential was. You speak to, how you would feel in trying to articulate things or put them out now versus before. We had discussed, that there are some cognitive, issues that come with this, right?
Oh, huge challenges. Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also,
go ahead, please.
Yeah. And I also think the other thing is, you can have this condition and all of your symptoms can be completely analogous to a brain injury, because it can affect your brain. It can slow down your cerebrospinal fluid. It puts pressure on your brain. So that's not comfy for the brain. Your brainstem controls all of your autonomic function. So heart rate, temperature regulation, like it has such a big impact. And I don't want to bring up this condition where it's like it's freaking people out. But sometimes people will have reoccurring concussion symptoms or intermittent symptoms and whatnot. And because the medical system does not address or look at this part of the body, I think it removes people's agency to really deal with it. So for example, for years, I had treatments and some of the treatments worked in my neck and that kind of helped. Like I'd get lightheaded, I'd pass out or whatever. The blood flow was good, but because that structure wasn't strong enough, it actually progressed those brain injury symptoms. And that was bad. And because the general knowledge for rehabilitation and care does not acknowledge or know about this condition, sometimes people are doing things that in the moment might feel a little bit better, but are actually worse. And there are other ways to take care of this condition. And so it's like, I want people, as I was saying earlier, like my severity was paralysis, locking in, heart problems, all sorts of things. But like, if someone can get management sooner, like they can have so much more options in life. And I don't want the scariest bottom of it to be the example. Like I guess why I bring up my story too is that like, if I wasn't diagnosed and my condition, unlike some people, can be some genetic problems, some post-viral and whatnot. Like if my condition wasn't flagged, then, there is some lacking information in the medical system. And the other thing I wanted to also bring up is that because of how the brainstem works, because of the neurology, because of the vagus nerve and the brain, and it can affect so many systems, I think it's very, very difficult for physicians and specialties to track down because they know about 2 or 3 symptoms over here. Another specialty knows about 2 or 3 over here. And it can feel like they're the problems a patient is having is incongruent. Like it doesn't make sense. But once you start to learn in depth about this condition, about the brainstem, all of those kind of biomechanical and biological factors, it does start to make sense.
You know what? I want to stop right there because I think we're going to go into something that is really could be life-changing for a lot of people. So we're going to take a quick break if you don't mind. Welcome to the Tragedy Academy Show, Create Bridge Style Divides, blah, 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 blah. I'm here with Rachel. And we were just talking about what it's like to be trapped in the cage of your quote unquote disability or chronic illness of some sort. And I have two things that I want to discuss based on what you went through. And I think that I want to kind of take a step back because I have a fear that I live with that I've had for about probably 8 years. And there was a man down the street that lived here, and his name was Bruce, and he passed on probably about 2 years ago. But Bruce was in a wheelchair, and he had ALS, very advanced ALS.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember meeting Bruce, and Bruce, of course, would have people taking him places, for a walk or something because he wasn't ambulatory. He was in a wheelchair and had, decreased function and really was to the point of almost being nonverbal, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
However, Bruce was still there. Bruce is in there. And my fear, and I promised myself when I met him, because I felt him,
yeah.
Right? He was there, that I would never speak to him any other way than I'm speaking to you. Because there is nothing worse than feeling like not only have you lost your capabilities or you're trapped, but that people around you now are going to communicate with you in that manner. I couldn't imagine the terror of having somebody go like, "Here's your bib, Jay. Make sure you sit still." And I'm inside doing long division. It's not fucking cool. I'm mad, right? I'm robbed of my human experience to the degree that it's like being in a coma in a way.
Well, and in a way too, like when you're living at that capacity, and it's actually very close to home because I had a good friend die who had ALS, I'm so
sorry.
You need, like, connection is so much more valuable. Like the more you struggle with basic function, doing things, I think the more it kind of brings your life down. It's like taking it to a simmer of like, what are the what are the most important things, right? So it's like probably connection, probably like meaningful exchanges, probably noticing moments, and even things too, like, towards the end, like I was in a walker, it was too advanced for me. I ended up in a wheelchair. And it's like, even like when I was being ported around, like people would like push me into the corners. And it was like a really eye-opening piece because it was like
nothing worse than being parked in a wheelchair, right?
Yeah, and like I didn't have
park your
a
friend.
lot of hand control or whatever. Yeah, like, and it's one of those things where I realize like people think of it as special treatment, but at the same time, I feel like it's more meaningful and more important to meet people where they're at. And to me, that's not giving someone an extra. It just feels like, decency in a sense. Like,
so I have a theory behind that. And I think that it comes down to whether or not I want to give up some of my victimhood in my own storyline. The moment that we recognize other people in turmoil, pain, or in some position that has put them in dire straits, then we have to admit we have it good.
Oh.
So it's much easier to be decent and turn away or just to get through the motions, because anything beyond that would mean that you're in a better position. And that doesn't mean that it's with malintent, right? We will turn our heads because it may be a mirror of something in ourselves that we don't want to address, right?
Yeah.
Or the pain inside of us is so great in our victimhood that we know the moment that we let it down or we start to give it up, then we've got to move forward.
Yeah. And I also think that there might be something like a little bit innocent in there too, which is that like,
100%.
do we as a society learn about different types of people? And when we learn about them, wouldn't it be nice to see, like, for example, like, instead of at this point in my life, my ambitions isn't like a big career. My ambition is taking care of my health, management, keeping my mood up and well, like all of these things. And so if I talk to someone about that, they might say it as like, oh, you're so obsessed with your health, or, oh, you're, think higher. But it's like, no, that is me being a highly successful, positive person, right? Like, and I think that sometimes, and I feel a little nervous bringing this up, but I think sometimes we can be put in a bit of a well of like toxic positivity, where we're not in real times with ourselves. We're not able to be like, you can talk about something that isn't completely positive, but has like strength of spirit, has positivity, or even just sharing space for someone to be like, I'm having a hard time. And it's like, instead of being uncomfortable, to be like, yeah, like that would be hard. Like it's giving something, but it's also receiving something.
If you do not love yourself, you have not proven you're lovable to others. How do you expect them to share your experience? Right? It all starts from within, right? These positions that we find ourselves in life where we lose abilities or have some kind of impairment or some disconnect from the societal norm or what's being told to us will bring us happiness, right? But what we don't realize is that we need to listen to the echoes of ourself. And the echoes of ourself are the words inside that we would give others in our position, right?
Yeah.
We will reach out or we will say things to others that we won't give ourselves. We will treat ourselves as if we're the dirty apartment roommate that deserves to have shit yelled at him all the time for not being as good as the other people in the complex, right? And what does it make the person that's doing the yelling look like or feel like at the end of the day?
Yeah, you're going to feel like shit. I mean,
even if you're the perpetrator.
Yeah.
The perpetrator takes it too. Right? So when you talk to yourself internally and you're overcoming these hurdles and these different junctions in life, right? Remind yourself that you are capable and that you have potential and that you're perfect the way you are. There is no difference. Right? I don't care if you got one arm, no legs, and whatever, you're still just as much a fingerprint as the person next to you with extra arms, right?
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? Right?
I think it also speaks to like, we're not going to get what we need everywhere, but finding, even if it's just one person, like finding someone where we feel like we can be a little bit more ourselves or a little bit more present, or even just take those chances, right? Like I might sound like I'm speaking with confidence, but I'm trying this on. This is new to me. This is not comfortable for me. I did not talk about my health with, people or anything. So it's also that I know that it's going to coincide with, okay, sometimes I'll feel self-doubt. I might not even narrate in my head, but I'm going to feel unsettled. But I know I'm moving in the right places to carve out the space that I want in life. And that sometimes you don't feel confident, but you're okay. You don't have to feel confident to be valuable in a sense. Like as in the feeling can be separate from the reality, and knowing that can have a huge value, which, that I don't have to.
The simple fact that you stood up out of what was the most comfortable victim chair there ever was. Cup holders, iPad, the whole nine, and a sign that says, I could have been this, so everybody look at me this way until I'm gone. At least you can remember that I would have been the dancer, the comedian, or whatever it is, right? You get to hang that on the wall because people around the world do this. I could have been, should have been, would have been, right? Despite these things, I could have been, right?
Yeah, sorry.
But that's not you.
No, and I also feel like it's interesting. Like, I feel like I performed a certain way in life. I tried as hard as I could. I did a good job at success, but I also, I kept a lot of me separate. It's also like, the thing is, I think that we want the measure of okay, so I'm a walking, talking miracle. I had rare neurosurgery with a very experienced surgeon. I'm walking again. I can speak again. I see better than I did. I've got tons of symptoms I'm still
You sound
working
like an
on.
X-Man.
Yeah. But at the same time, people are like, oh my God, you're amazing. But I'm like, yeah, but I still kind of lose control of my legs in a grocery store. And
is it like a skedaddle, or is it, just like it actually hurts? I'm going to pick on you and laugh because you hide the other side of something that we're going to discuss when we get back. Yeah. I like how you have described going into our next break that there are sides of you that you have kept separate from your other part of your life. And I think that people will love to hear who you are when nobody else is looking. Right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm here with Rachel. We're talking about CCI, and we're getting ready to go into a different mode here, right? And I think I'm even going to leave in that sound coming in because I don't think people know you yet, right? Because there's a beauty to comedy. There's a beauty to authenticity to its highest level. There's a reason why we gravitate to people that step outside of the societal norm to express their creativity in new ways, right? I think that your talent is recognizing the juxtaposition between what someone feels and what somebody wants, right? I watched all of your videos. And if you're listening to anything right now, and I know we want to talk about the disease, but you've got to see the person that walks into that issue, or not disease, but the condition, right? The person going into that is a person going in. But I want to remind you that those characters, that person, that flame, those smiles when you were putting together those sets and those ridiculous scenes, right? Because you could hear your smile. Have you ever heard that before? Somebody's on a mic, you've got your headphones on, and they're speaking. They're not changing anything, but you know they're smiling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like right now, everybody that just heard that heard you were smiling, right? Because it's an inner flame, and it gets brighter when we're using it to its fullest potential. Now, I am curious if you're willing to, because you do keep things separate. Would you like to tell everybody what it was that you were working on, your project that you seem to be enjoying more than anything at the time? Do you want to explain to people what that is and maybe why it came to fruition?
Oh, so Laurn the cat?
Yes, Laurn the cat. Laurn the cat and the individuals inside that whole entire scenario.
It's interesting. I feel like I have such a creative heart, and it coincides with the parameters of my life and my health. And making Laurn the cat was like a way to, at my own pace, with using different spoons you have for I could do a little bit of visual work. I could do a little editing is easier because it's more soft focus, and also learning skills. I loved that I was starting off with just a crappy phone, and I was able to start building something, and I was able to start learning something and get better at something. And also to express myself in ways that I never would, right? I created
so many ways. If people listening to this, they're thinking, oh, this is cute. She's got a skit. She's got something going. No, until you've got a wispy mustache, your pants pulled down, and Sharpie on your legs for hair, you have no clue what comedy is.
Yeah. And also the fun of creating a whole different world. There was something freeing about being other people and not having to worry about being accurate or even I think that funny thing about Laurn was Laurn is this character who's super dorky, oddly confident yet has high anxiety. And there was something about playing that character that was really kind of fun for me because it's so the opposite of who I am.
Mhm.
And then there was also something about like, as I worked at this craft for longer and longer until, a few years ago, I had to put it on hold. I liked getting better and better at it. I liked editing it together so that instead of it being like you're watching this dry narration, you're actually feeling something.
Hysterical, dude. Like I have friends that, because let me tell you, this is an acquired taste. This is not for everybody, which I love because these are my people, right? I need more people to be fans of you so I can find friends, right? Because you turn everything on its head.
Yeah.
Right. But you're also talking about something deeper.
Oh, totally. And you know what? Even though like the craft is on hold right now, I still make notes. Like I can't write scripts right now, but I'm making notes based on like little things that come up in everyday life. I'm like, oh my God, that neurosis, like, and I'll get like flashes of like, how would I film it and how would I edit it and whatnot? Cause like,
I have your next venture, right? For Laurn.
Okay.
I have it. I thought about it before I came on. And my idea was medical PSAs.
Oh, wait, tell me more.
So imagine. Did I hit something right on the head?
Well,
imagine those conversations between those two characters, right? Addressing complex medical situations and the neuroses of you hearing it and taking it all in and all those weird little quirks that you can spin into it can make something that feels like it could be devastating. It can turn someone's heart open at the moment of understanding.
You know what? I like what you're saying because I think about it. And one of the things I ran into the most often, and actually even with medical professionals, like I downgraded what I was going through at times because I'm like, okay, if I say this, they're going to think that I'm like stressed about it. And like, I was a minimizer to a fault where it became actually unsafe at times, like not seeking medical attention where I should. But in this case, it's almost funny because
you're blue and refusing oxygen.
Oh, like paralysis for 3 days, super
Come on.
Seriously. And then also going to ER and then getting assessed. And then the ER people being like, we don't know what to do, go back to the specialist, and then going back in the loop again. And then knowing the strain on my body. So like, that's a whole thing. But I love the idea of almost like speaking to the parts of us, because there are lots of people who are underrepresented who they're not magnifying it. They're not upset because they're anxious. They're minimizing it or even bringing up some of the neuroses perceived of the medical professionals, but not in a disrespectful way. I actually you can value.
Actually spin it that they have some bizarre entity called insurance.
Oh yeah. It's incentive. Yeah, absolutely.
Them on what they're allowed to diagnose with in order for it to fit. Like you could pick them all up and you could make them as quirky as shit. Thought bubbles, the whole line, because you have such interesting transitions and the ways that you approach it that I like Tim and Eric. Like I've always been a Tim and Eric fan, Adult Swim fan. Yeah. And that's what I see. Before we go any further, is there a specific show or program or art that you derived this from?
That's the weird thing is it turned into something and I didn't know where it came from and I didn't even know it was my brand of humor. But it felt right. And it developed over time. Like, in the beginning, it was more simple as far as like character development and whatnot. But I think that something that's inside of me with every aspect of life is I always want to improve at whatever I'm doing, whether that's market or not. So I don't really know. But one thing that someone who really liked my content said is they're like, you have to check out the show called Pen 15. So it's these adults who essentially like make this show where they're playing characters that are 13 years old with a bunch of other 13-year-olds. And it's like, it's a little bit TMI uncomfortable, but I I watched it way after I had created, most of my content by that point. And I was just like, I don't know why it was just so cringy, but it's just made my heart sing. Like it was just great.
Who said maturity was a requirement at the age of 18? Like, fuck you. It's way cooler being 13 and laughing my ass off with my friends.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, in sense of play, like, I also think that, like, even at my worst, what really helped me is playfulness, right? Like, and playfulness, like, there's a simplicity where it's not about even being immature. It's just about flowing and access and whatever. And like, I'm really lucky. I've got a very strong relationship with my partner, husband, whatever you want to call him. But we have that playfulness, and it's such a good reprieve. Like, someone who will banter, someone who will, like, we don't like musicals, yet we end up like singing these weird songs together. Like, that's just, I don't know. That's kind of like a little bit of that positive hormones going through your body, even at the worst of times.
I think that's beautiful. And I think you're describing how I navigate my life around my own home. When I left my career prior to this, I was a solution architect manager at a consulting firm doing business process offshoring. Right?
But part of my brain was like, "Woo, what's that?"
No, you don't want to go there. It's soul sucking.
Yeah.
Because that's the game we play, right? You pick a mask. They tell you if you grow up, you want a house in this neighborhood, and you've got to get this car, and then you've got to come out every time at the same time with everybody else in the morning, like it's Edward Scissorhands. Like, I don't know if you ever saw that movie, but everybody left the house at the same time. Hi, Bob, whatever. Right? And they went on their way. It was like this whole thing. And I bought that hook, line, and sinker. Right? Because I grew up poor with drug addicts and all that shit. The only place that you could find your future was on TV. Right? So what is it? It's Growing Pains. It's fucking, TGIF and all those shows. And those are just misconstruing life more than anything, but with good intentions a lot of time, which is even funnier, right? I love seeing that. But what I mean here is that when we create those characters of ourselves, they're still a reflection of ourselves, right? No matter what. So when we come back,
if people knew what Lauren DeCat was, they'd be like, "That's a reflection of me."
I want to know what they're a reflection of when we get back. I'm telling you, you're going to love it, right? So let's name your characters.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the main character is Lauren DeCat.
Okay.
And Lauren is a unibrowed, light mustached, very fickle personality, yet at the same time, very free with certain things. Lauren is probably the product of a very overbearing mother who always told them that they were a god and good. And yet at the same time, they're highly anxious, but they just bulldoze their way through life. And it's a beautiful thing to be.
It's controlled mayhem.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that though.
Yeah. And then Cindy is Lauren's partner, and she is also neurotic in her own way. All my characters are probably neurotic, I gotta say. She's definitely theme. Yeah, she's definitely a people pleaser, but at the same time, she's also a bit of a bulldozer in her own way. She wants what she wants. She's actually the example of, you're in a relationship, you're in some type of interaction or conflict, and you know how one member of the couple will you start arguing about something, and then that person ends up bulldozing their way. They just fixate it and they don't realize they fixated it, and they keep arguing their point and whatnot. There's those expressions there, which I think is just, it's so funny to put it way out there.
But that's how we can see you have to magnify the little things in order to point them out. And comedy does that.
Yes. And I love it because also, I went to school to be a counselor. And so I really love I know this is the secret I've not told. So I actually worked with like high risk youth and then also in violence prevention. So I also have a very serious, approachable side of me. And that part of me is so important. And I will always want to, as I get better again, keep part of me in that work if I can get back there. But I love the psychology of who we are. And it's not like there's making fun, but it's not making fun in a way that's punching down. It's making fun in the way that it's like, oh my God, we're all messes in these funny ways, but also organized chaos.
Human condition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you realize why it's called a condition? Yeah. Because it's an illness. Look around. Every other creature on the planet is in heaven.
Yeah.
We're the ones that are walking around building shit, talking to ourselves, and not realizing we're standing next to a perfectly good place to lay down and take a nap. Right? We're fucking nuts. We fly places to take naps.
Or
right?
if we're not nuts, it's kind of fun to be able to play nuts for a while and also edit the shit out of it until you realize, I don't relate myself to the characters when I have the finished product. I don't actually connect that was me. It's a little bit of a weird experience. And I like it because when I'm first editing it, it feels like me. And I'm like, oh, I don't know about my acting, which it gets quite strong. And then there's the latest character was Gloria, which is their therapist. And actually I had a full episode that it never got posted 3 years ago when things took a big downhill, but it's done. So I feel like I should, put the full one out. You heard it here first. I'm holding you to it. The little clips there, but and it's kind of the strongest as far as upping the camera quality. I finally, got the lapel mic, as things progressed, putting a little bit of money into things, not much. Yeah.
It doesn't take much. You don't give yourself enough credit in the editing arena. It is not equipment.
That's not editing.
Equipment. That's you.
Yeah. I love it so much. And it's such a freedom for me because the way my vision works and stabilizing it, text, fine organization. So I've got oscillopsia, which sounds like a super villain.
Oscillopsia sounds like my Aunt Gertrude's dog that she tries to convince me is a purebred.
Oh, and bites everybody. Oh, my doggy's so nice.
My Yorkapoo, or whatever the fuck it is. I'm like, dude, that's a dog.
No, and mutts are way hardier. So don't you tell her you don't want a purebred. They've got more genes in them.
Yeah. I'm all for the caramel earth that's coming. I think we deserve it. We need to stir this shit up and get rid of all of these biases, the implicit shit, the misunderstandings. The more we can dilute it, the better. Right? Yeah. That's my opinion. I'm probably just got some kind of really, really shitty shaped target put on my forehead just now, but that's a whole other thing to laugh about, right?
And that also says a lot about other people because, what's that fear about? Life is, stressful enough as it is. That's what you're afraid of? Are you serious?
It's a sea, and we're all standing in it. And in order to stay above water, we have to have someone below us. The moment we allow them to stand up, we both go underwater. At least that's our fear.
It's so fragile. And I do get that there are people out there who conduct themselves in such a way. And if you are in their orbit, you can do your best, but you're still within that environment. But at the same time, it's also that whole thing of I don't want to be safe because I'm best friends with the biggest bully. I don't want to be near that shit if I can help it,
100%. Yeah. The coldest ice cube will still become boiling water when it's put together, right? No matter what, it has no choice but to become part of it. Yeah. No matter how much you want. That's why you've got to make your space, not any other space. You are your space. The rest of it is around you and a choice whether or not it becomes part of your life. It's like sitting in a snow globe that has the ability to reach through and pull things in and put them back out, right? And all the infinite possibilities in the world are going around you in that snow globe, right? And you are the one that makes a conscious decision to reach outside and grab the cow as it's flying by in the tornado, right? Because I need to think about a fucking cow. right? Or I need to think about how I failed at work today, what my wife thinks of me, how my clothes fit, am I loved? All of these things. But if you really sit down with it, none of them exist.
No, and also like, I don't want to have to like rage or externalize on someone else to feel strong and whole and better. And I think sometimes people are like, oh, you lost your shit and then you felt better. But at the same time, like for me, like the weapon I have inside of me is to be able to like not be able to be okay at times, to self-assess it, to like figure out what's happening. And like me knowing something's inside of me doesn't mean I'm blaming me. It means that I'm like, oh, I feel more irritable when, you know, my partner says something today. Okay, like I might be feeling more sensitive and like I'm empowered by that. It doesn't mean I'm a problem. It means that like I have way more tools in my tool belt.
I completely can relate to that.
Yeah. Not that we can all do it.
Did you realize, or maybe you don't realize, at least for me, my memory and the way that I navigate my creativity is different. I don't work linear. I think that most people are layers of experiences over time, and that gives you who you are, and you make a stack, right? And that's how you put things together. Me, and I'm starting to guess you as well, probably a result of a lot of times neurodivergent people will hear this, and then people that have TBIs or some kind of cognitive impairment that has had their mind reroute their learning methods, right?
Yeah.
And what I've found is I like to call it the fractal approach, right?
Okay.
And everything that I need exists around me as fractals. And I sit in the center as a temporal mark.
Wait, so when you say fractals, you mean that like instead of everything being clear in front of you, it's kind of like you access it, like it kind of jumps to you and then goes away and then jumps to you. Okay. You
pull it in to your moment when it hits your intuition or where you're at within your creative flow. Yeah. And that doesn't mean you're going the wrong direction if you didn't do the first step. Because you're working fractally and replacing something back to a whole, it will show itself when it shows itself. Sometimes it's first and it's obvious. Other times it's not. But when you have that cognitive breakdown, a lot of times I can't use instructions. Instructions that give me anxiety. I throw them away. I don't care what you think you knew when you made this. Yeah. I can do it without you.
I can't remember 2 after 1. What, like, draw me a picture, show me a video. Yeah. No, seriously.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. And I think what you're pointing out is, like I said, neurodivergent people sit in this bucket because they have the term is they're time blind.
Yeah.
Hyper focus, reality. Yeah. I talk about this with my wife all the time. She's like, you know, it's 5:00. Why aren't you out of the studio? You said you were going to do this. And I'm like, well, it wasn't 5:00 to me. I promise you that. Yeah. And if you see me in these situations, I promise you in my heart of hearts, I am not trying to get out of or not be where I said or committed to be. Yeah. But when you're time blind and you're passionate and you can combine the two, life doesn't exist outside of you.
I think it's also hard too, because especially like whether it's neurodivergency, brain injury, or all of the above, when you create an access point, you're like, I can actually do this. My brain, I'm able to like, pull these 5 pieces of information at once to get this job partially done or build a foundation. It's like that knowing that it's not just mind over matter. Like sometimes the brain flows better than other times and you got to do it then. And also when you talked about like it not being linear, I think what I've ended up doing over the years living with like TBI, CCI, all of this stuff is like just trying to find an access point. Like life and my body gives me no's all the time. And that's not a perceived no. It's not an attitude or whatever. It's that I know that there's a lot of things I can't access. So I'm like, okay, what is the one yes I can get? What is the one yes now versus like waiting until I'm further along that may or may not happen where I'm like 5 steps, ahead in my recovery. I'm like, what can I do now that either is analogous or is different or but is something I can, connect with, work on, do that sort of thing.
No, I completely understand where you're coming from. And this is something I've been discussing recently. And it lives in the area of potential, right?
Yeah.
And all potential comes down to seriously a binary system. It's either yes or no, right? And what you're describing is you say, I need to find one way, one entry versus all of these no's. But at the end of the day, you don't have a whole lot of no's. You have no. And you have yes. And yes is there at any given time. If we spend time focusing and counting the number of no's, we spend more time there than we do actually connecting with the real yes.
Oh, yeah. And that's like, it's also too, it's motivating, right? So for example, me making that content was, the way I live my life, the way I prioritize and pace and everything, I still never knew what I was going to get. But I'm like, sometimes I can get that hour to work on something. So like anytime there was a little bit of room, that was something I could do. And also there's something really important to me about creating something and having something that is tangible and out there later. And that felt so rewarding for me because, we can as people work very hard, just, if you're neurodivergent, just keeping time, doing all these things. And sometimes it's hard because people are like you talked about your own job, coming from addiction and poverty, like it gave you some financial security. It also gave you social stature. And I think for some of us, it's like, what are the tangible things we can hold on to that we know we're putting our efforts into and working towards? And sometimes it's not something that everybody else can see, but it's something that we're like, I did this, like I maintained this, or I stuck to this, or I was resourceful. Like, I feel like that is my strongest strength, is finding ways to just get things done.
I absolutely love that. And I like that you said that you were resourceful. And I think that we should hold on for one last new segment that I'm going to start doing. And it's talking about the future, the potential, right? So when we come back, we're going to talk about how lives will change with everything that you've worked on with the addition of future technologies. When we come back. Welcome back. It's so dumb, right? They told me. So here's the real about the breaks. When we joined Pod Populi, they're like, "Hey Jay, don't be a loser. Make money. Stop just talking for an hour and put breaks in there, and we'll pay you with ads." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So now I have a fucking timer that I carry around when I do things, right? That as you rotate it, it's different time frames. This protects me from time blindness.
That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah. And
so
it uses
if
less
I am,
energy.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, just like it's that whole thing of like finding ways to make it easier for you to manage time. So instead of like not being able to hold thoughts because you're staring at the clock because you don't want to forget, you give yourself something self-tangible that might maybe even vibrate so that you're like, you don't have to waste all these tokens thinking about it. It just vibrates. And then the tricky bit is when it vibrates, you're like, why did I set this?
Oh, yeah, that's a bitch. I think you're also speaking to a vast majority of people that utilize pharmaceuticals or plant medicine to help with their mental health and live with short-term memory loss or the disabilities that go along with that in order to just function, right?
Yeah.
So I'd like to talk about the future. I've been super interested lately in artificial intelligence and not in the dystopian future. Right? The way that we like to paint it. Sci-fi, if you're hearing me, stop fucking painting us in dystopian shit because you're the ones that get shit right. You're going to come true and I'm going to be pissed if I'm getting tossed around by fucking some robotic Schwarzenegger. Not fucking cool.
I want denial for just a little bit.
Right? Can't we just like draw this big fucking utopia where everybody's like, AI is here to tell us how amazing we are. Right? I say that because I think that there is something in there. There's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
But first, let's talk about CCI. right? What does CCI look like if we have artificial intelligence running the diagnostics?
Oh, that would be so useful. I actually think it would really help physicians. Like I think there's a lot of flaws in the medical system. I think they do incredible work. I think it's a super stressful job. And I also think that if we can understand these variables, we can actually understand that that patient is giving us really valuable data that is tangible and is not a stress response. I think that we have, like, you know, if you're lucky enough to have something that is widely known, like heart cancer, you know, musculoskeletal, lucky, right? But people know what to do with you.
You're in you're in the top 10. You're the ones that are statistically proven, and that somebody has donated money to find out what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Right? Well, nobody's looking up CCI because 10 people have CCI, you know, in their minds.
Totally. And then there's also the whole thing about, like, you know, there's so much symptom overlap in many conditions. TBI has some very similar overlap. And I think the thing is too, like, you know, you don't want patients also being afraid of something that maybe isn't their problem. That said, ruling things out is really valuable.
And I
Google. Well, and that's the thing is too, like,
I've had all the diseases.
Knowledge can be agency. And also, like, I think that there are lots of people out there who, something's really obviously wrong in their bodies and they're not overreacting to it. So, like, let's also acknowledge those people exist as well too, that those people are doing a really good job being high achievers given a different deck of cards.
Dude, that's a fantastic way to look at it, right? You come to my house and play Go Fish and I got 36 fucking cards, I'm still going to beat you, right? This is how life works. You get what you get. That's it. To mourn the loss of something you never had or had before is a waste of now.
Okay, I got a little subtlety there. I think that it's important to be able to hold both because I feel like that's the ultimate resiliency.
You are correct. I didn't say forget it.
Oh, I misheard you. Sorry.
Mourning.
Oh, okay.
Two different things.
Yeah.
Because we are not who we are without the sum of our experiences before us. Right? But if you live in the experience that is now, mourning the loss of something that was before, then you're wasting the experience that you could be dedicating to yourself or more. Yeah. Right? So that's my thought process behind that. Because I've mourned a lot of things too.
Totally. And especially if it halts you, if it keeps you frozen, that's very different. And that's so important to be like, am I hostage to wanting it to be what it was? Yeah. Versus, you know, like, of course, like I have got lots of things I should grieve and loss or that could involve grief and loss. That said, I don't really spend a lot of time there because it's too hard. It's stressful. Like, I don't really want that. But at the same time, like, you know, it is a very different life. And I think that it is, you know, it has its challenges in itself, but at the same time, like, what can I do to maximize the potential I have right now? And for me, I've got a second lease that most people don't get, even people who are later diagnosed, because I got the right care. I got a very, very skilled neurosurgeon. You know, I got really lucky, and it's hard.
Bro, of course it is, right? To live is to suffer, right? But it's a choice to stay in it. Right? I believe that we all have the potential to create our realities based on what deck of cards we have. Right?
Yeah, play your hand as best you can.
Absolutely. And call life's bluff, right? Tell life they're wrong. Tell life it's a yes, not a no. My potential, I choose to exercise it. That is what it is to be alive. Right?
And also maybe the yes is very small and maybe we have to count the small yeses, right? So like the little thing you can do, like I know when I was like stuck on my back and like I had difficulty speaking, like, you know, the yes was me sending a Marco Polo with a friend, like, but I was still part of me was there. And I was like, I gotta count that, or I gotta count the fact that like, I'm working hard at this. Like,
you don't quit.
No. Oh God, no. I'm terribly tenacious.
You're not capable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're the person that finds the humor and the drive out of a failure because the next one is going to be that much cooler.
Yeah. I have a really strong sense of commitment.
But that's what makes you you.
Yeah.
But I want to end this in a manner where I want to be respectful to you. Mm-hmm. And I also want to be respectful to your heart because I believe that's where our creativity comes from. Mm-hmm. Right? It is a direct reflection of us. That external creativity is telling us who we are on the inside, who we're not letting out every day, that we're not giving the freedom, the oxygen to the flame that they are, right? You spent the entire third portion of this show smiling from ear to ear, talking about your art.
Yeah.
Not somebody else's art, not something that you want it to be, not something that it was, but what it is in the moment to you, how you created it, what it was like to live in that temporal anchor, right? That cyclone of creativity. Okay? I believe you deserve that. And I'll go one step further. There is an onus on you as a person that has been given such a unique puzzle piece to go out there and express it as hard as you can. Because if we're not acting on our full potential in the most authentic manner, then we're slapping whoever or whatever the fuck made us right in the face, thinking we got it better. Right? You are unlimited. You are both super intelligent. You are very empathetic. You are tenacious and you're fucking hysterical. That's a total package.
Thank you.
You know, go and tell your husband he owes you dinner tonight for being the total package.
Oh, and I love food. That is a Laurn DeCat thing. The obsession with food is the most honest.
See, there's a reason we get along. There's a reason we get along. We like dark and weird humor and also food.
And I'm food motivated like a Labrador retriever, I would say.
I have a bull mastiff. And she literally will do toddler things when there are food not involved. She will lay down and go limp and just I'm not going to walk or I'm not going to do this or whatever. I pull out food and she's fucking in Mensa. I'm like,
she's like, I'm a highly skilled dog.
She's fucking doing quantum entanglement and fractal math and shit. Yeah. Like for a fucking pepperoni. But when I need her to just come over here and get away from the door, she's like, burr, 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 burr.
I can't hear you. I don't understand.
I can't smell what you're saying, so it doesn't matter.
Motivate my brain.
Speak to the nose.
Yeah.
Like, so I want to give you a minute. To tell us where people can exercise an opportunity to support this, how they can, where they can go to find you to talk about it, and kind of wrap up there.
Sure. So I've made a little bit of content about CCI, and it's on Rachel's CCI Path, RACHELS CCI Path. It's on YouTube. There's also my handle on Instagram. I am on social media, but just lightly because I'm still working up my visual stamina and whatnot. But if you can support there, like keep these conversations going. There's also a really good video that dialogues about why it took me 14 years to get diagnosed. I think for some people too, who, you know, maybe have ENT problems. They're not getting, they've had an accident in the past. They're not kind of figuring out where the problems are coming from. That might be a really interesting video to look at or share with other people, because it does not mean that you have to be at the far end like I was, but it might mean that your management protocols might need to be different. And that could give you a huge leg up in your long-term recovery. So YouTube, Instagram, and then also it's not being managed right now, but Laurn DeCat, LAURN DAKAT on YouTube
Resurrected.
and Instagram.
You heard it here first.
And at some point, and also too, I just want to say for people like, you know, some of us like, you know, they're maybe we are living with some some limits, right? And so for me right now, it's like, even just being able to be creative enough that like I will have the fantasy of a video I want to make. That's me exercising those parts of myself, right? Like that actually keeps this brain fresh, right? And I had 2 flashes.
That's
I don't recall them
for the freaking creative mind.
Yeah. And I had 2 flashes of like specific videos when you were talking. It like a sieve, it went through my brain, but I'm still practicing.
See, but it's there.
Yeah.
You can't ignore Laurn the cat.
Oh, no.
Laurn the
and
cat
also
does not get ignored. Even, I understand. I'm saying this like you gave it up. It's been on pause.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And
you didn't give it up.
My last character, which was the last video I made that I like posted a year after, was the Elizabeth video. And it is a like passionate conversation about a woman and her hemorrhoid. So you got to check this stuff out. Things nobody should be talking about, but that was the highest quality video I did.
Cut away.
Yeah.
I love it. See, I would be on the toilet having that conversation with my hemorrhoid.
Oh,
like just upset.
Totally.
I would be talking to it and be fucking really? Really? I'm sitting on hot grapes. I'm pissed. I'm like, this is not cool.
Yeah. And it's like a monologue, 2 minutes, animated hemorrhoid. But it's also, that's the last character, which I made a version of me. You know, she seems a little more sane, but you know, it's just there's a lot of TMI, which is a beautiful thing to connect with.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Probably get you in contact with our friends, the Real Idiots. Those guys are legit, and they do some comedy videos, like long, like award-winning style.
Nice.
Like they did like an entire Super Soaker 90s video, but it shoots coleslaw. It's called the Slaw Soaker.
Wow. Oh my God. You don't want that stuff to start fermenting, right?
It is amazing because they do it in high cinematography.
So that's what it should be.
Diving around with a Super Soaker and then throwing somebody behind the camera, hitting somebody in the face with a cafeteria-sized amount of coleslaw.
Oh, yeah. And that's the one other thing. All the Laurn the Cat stuff was like filmed, written, edited all by me, except for my husband likes everyone to know that there is one video where chips are being poured on my face, and he helped me with that. So he needs credit. You got to love him.
He deserves it.
Yeah. After 16 years with this lady.
A chip snow.
Oh, yeah. But
what kind of chips were they? Were they good?
I think they were honey mustard. Like, I still have memories. But the thing is, if you're feeling while eating,
smell it as it was falling over you.
Yeah, it's which one was it called? It was an earlier one.
It's called foreplay in my house.
Oh my God.
You're crumbling chips.
And the last thing is, like, when you have very little things you can do in life, like I was bedbound, my husband would come home and he'd have gone to lunch with his coworkers, and I'd be like, what did you eat? Tell me all the details. And then I'd be like, and that's not enough. It's like, what did your coworker eat? Like total creep. Like, I'm not a voyeur.
So kind of psycho. Did they hold their fork? Did they hold the spoon?
Did they dip it in mayonnaise? I don't know. Whatever floats your boat, I guess.
Tell me, was the apple crisp?
Yeah. Oh, don't even get me started on that stuff.
Oh, God, that'd be so funny. See, you've got to do this one, too.
Oh, yeah.
Do a whole grocery list with the two of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's infinite possibilities. See,
there really is.
This is why I'm going to keep recovering, is I need to make bizarre content and share it.
Because you're bridging divides.
Yeah.
And comedy is a gateway to magnify the things that other people aren't paying attention to. And you're really fucking showing out, and some funny dude.
Thank you. And I love being, it's so good to be brave. Like, even though I work so hard and I know I did my best, when I post that content each and every time, I'm like sweating my armpits. Like, and it's like, you know, and then it's like, you know, very few people see it, yet it's still a huge deal for me.
It's CBT.
Yeah.
Editing podcasts and doing creative videos and all that kind of stuff will teach you more about yourself than you ever knew.
Yeah.
It really will. I love that you've invited us on your journey, that you have sat here and shared, laughed, and gave us the view through your lenses.
Thank you so much.
We all have a unique prescription.
Yeah. And thanks for having me. It's my first time doing an interview in like almost 3 years. So
I Dude,
back.
I was legit stoked when I knew that you were at a point that you were considering coming on the show. Because I was wanting to ask you back in the beginning, and that happened. Oh, no, dude. I have not forgot about you at all. My wife knows who you are.
Really?
Because my friends thought I was fucking nuts for watching your videos. They're like, what the hell kind of fever dream is this shit? Yeah. And I'm like, no, dude, this is fucking funny.
It's the passion.
So you're fools. You're not connoisseurs of comedy. I'm ashamed of all of you. You're banished from my home.
And then people talk to me and they're like, you seem really normal. I'm like, yeah. I actually had a few friends be like, it's weird. It's like looking into your brain. And I'm like, I don't even know that that's in there.
But it is.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Which is what makes it amazing. And that you found a way to put it on display like that for everybody to hang out with. It's fucking dope. So I appreciate
keep honing
you.
It. Yeah.
Yep. Keep being a lighthouse. Keep standing up, being as authentic as you can so other people can find their way, no matter what position you are in life.
Thank you.
Remember, everybody, be cool and keep learning.